Hi, good morning, everyone. All right. So, as discussed with the yesterday's session, we have understood like what could be the circumstances where we have to implement one-to-one association. And we also have seen about the validation rules, like how to create a validation rule. And I have taken one example that if we wanted to make a field as a required, as a mandatory, but with the help of validation rules, so how exactly we can do that, that part also have been covered in the last lecture. Now, let me finish this one-to-one association. So whenever we are creating one-to-one association, we actually would require two distinguished functionalities of Salesforce. The first is a roll-up summary with count as a selected function and a validation rule. All right, these are the two things that, with the help of which we can create one-to-one association. So we are dealing with one of the issue over here. The issue is, as according to this organizational policy, if an hiring manager has been given one position, if a hiring manager already is handling a position, if this hiring manager already is handling a position, the same hiring manager should not be selected for another positions. And this is the internal policy of this organization, that they wanted one position should be solely handled by one hiring manager. Until the time he is working on to the same, he shouldn't not be allotted any another position. So how we are going to handle this? So, if we come and think of this, like what exactly we are supposed to implement over here, then you would end up with a situation that this is something is one-to-one association, because position is child, hiring manager is parent. And indirectly, what we are trying to say, indirectly, what this requirement is trying to convince us is one position should be given to one hiring manager. One hiring manager should have only one position. And one hiring manager should have only one position. This is as good as saying one parent should have only one associated child. Right? So obviously, this is something where we have to implement one-to-one association. All right. See, probably for the last time, or maybe, but I am saying you that as a part of direct relationships, as a part of standard relationships, although there are four direct relationships, four standard relationships. When I say standard, what does it mean? It means you can see it over here. You can see it over here. You can see it whenever you create a new field. You can see this interface where this user interface where we have to select the corresponding data type of that field. You can see the name of lookup relationship, a master detail relationship, and an external lookup relationship. If you go and if you go with user object, by the way, if you go with the user object, if you go with the user object, and there if you try to create a new field inside user object, that time you can see the name of hierarchy. That time you can see the name of hierarchy. So this is the reason, guys. This is the reason I could say lookup master detail, lookup external lookup master detail, and hierarchy as the standard relationships. I could say that these are direct relationships. These are standard relationships. Because if you wanted to create a lookup or master detail, external lookup, or maybe a hierarchy, you can see the option. You can see the option on this particular user interface. There is an option for this. But when we try to create one-to-one or maybe many-to-many, That is not a direct relationship. By certain means, you have to create that. Like if you remember, when we were creating many to many relationship, that time what we did, we create another object, a third object. And that third object act as a common child between both parents. There were two objects in the beginning. There were two objects. We were not being able to create a direct relationship between them. Why? Because whenever you wanted to create a relationship, one of them must be uh, must be uh, must be used as a child. And that is what exactly was the issue. We were not being able to make any one of them as a child. Both of them was parent. So if they both of them was parent, we cannot map a direct association, a direct relationship. So how to do that? There is no direct way. You cannot apply lookup, external lookup, master detail hierarchy. No. So in that kind of circumstances, direct relationships doesn't works. But that is what you have to do. You ultimately would have to form a relationship. Then you apply your own intelligence. And you have been taught that even though if you are not being able to create direct relationship, there are some workarounds to do that. So in those circumstances, you have to create something called as many to many. And we have learned how to create that as well. Create a third object, make that as a junction object, then map your junction object with both of the parent, but in master detail. Now, why exactly in master detail? Why not in lookup? Because we intentionally wanted to implement the cascade deletion functionalities over there. So that was the first indirect relationship you have learned. But that is important. That is important to learn because there would be certain circumstances where you were not being able to map a direct relationship. You cannot create lookup, external तो सवाल ही नहीं उठता, master detail hierarchy कुछ भी नहीं. तो फिर आप क्या करोगे? क्या आप रुक जाओगे वहीं पर? क्या वो प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं हो सकता? नहीं, उसका दूसरा तरीका है. सो दैट वाज द रीजन कि ये रिलेशनशिप भी इंपॉर्टेंट है. एंड सिमिलरली वन टू वन एज वेल. So even though if you are having a lookup relationship, maybe you are having a master detail relationship, but then you wanted a parent to restrict, to put up a restriction in such a way that parent should only be associated to one child. If a particular record as a parent is being associated to one record, is already being associated to one record as a child, then the same parent record must not have any another association. That is where you have to implement one-to-one. So how to do that? There is no direct way. There is no such option called many to many. There is no such option called one-to-one. Here you have to apply your intelligence. Right? So whenever we are creating one-to-one, one-to-one is created by two things of Salesforce. You have to learn two different features. The first is to create a roll-up summary, and the second is to create a validation rule. And by the way, roll-up summary and validation, both of them, they have to be created onto parent object. Because roll-up summary वैसे भी parent object पर ही बनाया जाता है. Roll-up summary वैसे भी parent object पे ही बनाया जाता है. All right, so let me now finalize this. So between hiring manager and position, hiring manager is parent. And so I'm going with hiring manager. I'm expanding this. Force.com quick access menu. I wanted to create a roll-up summary. Roll-up summary is a new field. So I go with view field. Rather clicking onto this, better would be like, I make a click onto new. So I'm clicking onto this new button. And what I wanted to create a roll-up summary. But as you can see, this has not been highlighted. This has not been highlighted. Even if I try to make a click, nothing happens. Nothing happens. So I'm not being able to create a roll-up summary. Can any one of you identify what could be the reason why I am not being able to create roll-up summary? In the chat, you can quickly answer me. Why? What could be the reason, guys? What is your assumption? Why we are not, this option is not enabled, rather it is disabled? What is the reason for this? Yes, what is the reason for this? Nothing? No guessings? Or requiring some more time for Typing something? Yes. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. All right. You are not being able to create a roll-up summary. What could be the reason for that? This option is disabled. This option is disabled. Okay. Oh, that is read only. Of course, it is read only. Already 2 roll-up summaries? No, there are no roll-up summaries. Where do you find a roll-up summary? If I go with the hiring manager objects and I go with view fields and I go with the custom fields and relationship section, where do you find any roll-up summary? There's a field, phone field, email, auto number, pick list lookup. Where do you, onto the hiring manager, just Shadab, somebody who's Shadab. Already 2 roll-up summaries are there. That is what he said to me. But tell me, in the hiring manager, I go to custom fields and relationship. Where is that 2 fields of? And that is read only. Of course, that is read only. That is the reason I cannot create it. Okay. What is the first rule of creating a roll-up summary? Whenever you are creating a roll-up summary, tell me what is the first rule of that? What is the first rule? Whenever you are creating a roll-up summary, the relationship type must be a master detail relationship. The relationship type must be a master detail relationship. Now, if I project, let me open the schema builder. Let me open a schema builder over here. And if I bring, let me clear it all. The custom object I'm selecting, hiring manager and position. All right, I'm selecting both of them. Now you tell me one thing, what do you see? What is the type of relationship between hiring manager and position? What is the type of relationship? It is lookup. And because there is a lookup relationship, you cannot create roll-up summary. You cannot create a roll-up summary on lookup relationship. Although between account and opportunity is the only lookup relationship, the account and opportunity is the only lookup relationship between account and opportunity is the only lookup relationship where I can create roll-up summary. Rest for any another, you cannot create roll-up summary unless and until the relationship is a master detail relationship. So this is the reason, guys. This is the reason that you were not seeing that option as an enabled, rather it was disabled. Why? Because a hiring manager is connected to position, but in what? In a lookup relationship. Okay. So, but I have to create this, right? How to do that? What would be my step number 1 in that case? Actually, my step number 1 was to create a relationship, but as you can see, there is a lookup, step number 1 was to create a roll-up summary and then a validation rule. I wanted to create one-to-one association. For one-to-one association, I have to first of all create a roll-up summary. Second is to validation rule. But during creation of roll-up summary, we came to know that there is a lookup relationship. All right, there is a lookup relationship. So before creating roll-up, there are few more steps that has been added. And what are those steps? You would now require to convert this lookup into master detail, because we wanted to create a roll-up summary. So I have to convert this from lookup to the master detail, right? We have to convert this from lookup to the master. So here, first of all, you would have to perform a relationship conversion, and you have to convert this lookup relationship. You have to convert this lookup relationship into master detail, right? That is what the step number 1 it becomes. Now, all right. When we wanted to convert, I'm opening this, I'm giving you this command. You can now unmute yourself because I wanted to have discussions on this. Whenever we are converting a lookup relationship into the master detail relationship, what is the step number 1? What is the important prerequisite into this? Yes, tell me. Whenever you are converting a lookup relationship, right now you are attempting, you have to attempt this. You have to convert this lookup relationship into master. Tell me what is something that you have to see. Yes, anyone? Any one of you? Whenever we are converting a lookup into the master, what is my step number one? What is something I say that this is a prerequisite? Yes.
Parent should be standard object.
Parent should be a standard object. No, it is not. Rather, in the master detail, standard object cannot be a child, but that's a different thing. Yes, Ruchira?
Both should be of object, I think.
What should be?
A standard object.
No, it is not. It is not. In case of a master detail relationship, the standard object, if you are using, that cannot be a child object. That's a different thing. You are dealing with hiring manager and position. Both of them are custom object. Why we are discussing about standard? Why at all? I mean, we are talking regarding your hiring manager position. Both of them are custom object. I would not see anything on to chat. When I have see यार मैं आप लोग को कमांड दिया है डिस्कस करने के लिए. Why you are answering me on to chat? ठीक है, anyways. But Prerna has answered it correctly. Every child should have a parent. That is your only thing. That is the only thing what you have to. I mean, every child must have a parent. Let me go back to this. When you are converting a lookup relationship into a master detail, if there is already a lookup relationship, map or associate what? Every child record with a parent. That is, for every child, there must be an associated parent. That is an important prerequisite. For every child, there must be a parent. So what I have to do, I wanted to convert this relationship from lookup to master. First of all, I have to go with position. I have to open all positions and I have to see that if every position is having a parent or not. Now in this over here, you can see that every one of us having a parent. If for example, there was a record, for which there is no parent, like there is a record called as senior Salesforce developer. There is no hiring manager selected. Now, if I try to move this conversion, it would going to give me the error. You wanted to try, I can try, but that would be a waste of time because this already have been demonstrated. When I was teaching you this topic, how to convert this lookup into master, that time I already have demonstrated you. It gives you the error if the child doesn't have a parent. And we have an at-length discussion on to that. So you could go and revise that. So if you wanted to convert, you first of all have to make sure that every child record should have an associated parent. And like I can see that there is a record that doesn't seems to have a parent. So I have to first of all make that association. I'll have to first of all make that association. Right? And I mean, during this course of discussion, if you remember, I told you that if there are so many records over there, you wanted to perform the edit, but there are not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 record. There are bulk amount of record. How to do that? That time we initiated that discussion. There are a few techniques you would be going to learn in data management: data import, data export, data loaders, loaders.io, and then Salesforce inspector. I would be going to teach you batch programmings. I also have to talk about the capacities, DMLs. When you perform this onto user interface level, you can edit only one record at a time. You perform this with DML programming, insert, update. There are statements. You can perform up to 10,000 record. You go with data import, export. You can manipulate up to 50,000 record. You go with data loader. You can go with 5 million record, 50 lakh. You go with bash programming. You can go up to 50 million, 5 crore records. We have had a discussion. और इतनी जल्दी अगर आप लोग भूलने की अगर आप करेंगे ना तो बहुत दिक्कतें होंगी बॉस. Salesforce बहुत बड़ा है. This is just we have started. अभी कुछ भी नहीं हुआ है. This is only the 10% portion. Maybe शायद ये खत्म करने के बाद मैं कर सकूं कि 10% portion या maybe 8% portion हुआ है अभी. और अगर आप लोग अभी से भूल रहे हैं तो ये बहुत दिक्कत है फिर. आपको कम से कम 8 से 9 महीने की जर्नी बची है अभी। अभी एडमिन खत्म होने में बहुत वक्त है, डेवलपमेंट होगा, इंटीग्रेशन होगा, डिप्लॉयमेंट होगा, उसके बाद में फिर वेब टेक्नोलॉजीज आएंगी, HTML CSS जावास्क्रिप्ट बूटस्ट्रैप, काफी सारी चीजें पढ़ेंगे, देन यू विल फाइनली माइग्रेट टू लाइटनिंग। बहुत लंबी जर्नी है ये, you have to keep on revising everything, and Salesforce Classic is the base of everything. Understand one thing, that is the reason it requires somewhere around like 4 to 5 months. उसके बाद में हर चीज 2 महीना 1.5 महीना 2 महीने 1.5 महीने का है, that is the advanced portion, and that advanced portion is a very limited kind of study. Here is something where we are building our Salesforce knowledge. तो अगर आज क्लास खत्म होने के बाद हम सीधा अगले दिन आके अपना लैपटॉप ओपन करते हैं और बीच में हम कुछ नहीं कर रहे हैं, सो प्लीज लीव कर दो इस क्लास को, मत पढ़ाइए. दिस इज नॉट फॉर यू. If you don't have the time to invest over here, please don't do this course, because this is a very long study, guys. This technology is something that is replacing SAP these days. आप थोड़ी स्टडी करिए कि SAP क्या है. SAP पिछले 20 सालों से है, और ये वो टेक्नोलॉजी है जो SAP को रिप्लेस कर रहा है. सो दिस इज अ वेरी बिग थिंग. ये 2 महीना 3 महीना में पढ़ने लायक चीज नहीं है, इसके लिए अच्छी खासी स्टडी चाहिए. तो अगर आप इस टेंडेंसी से इसको पढ़ रहे हैं तो ये बहुत गलत हो रहा है आपको के साथ. ठीक है, तो प्लीज ऐसा नहीं करें. वक्त निकालें, पढ़ाई करें, रिवाइज करते रहें. हर एक पॉइंट जो क्लास में डिस्कस हो रहा है वो बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. चलिए, सो फॉर whenever we are converting a lookup into master detail, there's only one prerequisite. There is only one point for which you have to look. When you are converting a lookup into master, every child must have a parent. You have to make this, you have to be sure about, you have to make this. I mean, you have to see for this. For every child, there is a parent. If there is no parent, you have to make this association. Now, because I can see this is an ideal circumstances where every child seems to have a parent, let me now convert this into master detail. So I would open this force.com, I'll go with view fields, and I'll see to where is that lookup relationship. This is that field, lookup relationship. I'll open this and I'll make that edit. What I wanted to do, I wanted to change the field type. Right now it is lookup. I would convert this into master detail and then go with next. I mean, the field names, I'm keeping it as it is. I'll just save it. And now this relationship have been converted. Now, if you can see, the relationship has been converted to master detail. The relationship has been converted to the master detail. Right? You can cross verify this. You can cross verify this. Now the relationship have been converted into master detail. All right, let's come back to the discussion. What we are creating, we are creating a one-to-one association between hiring manager and position. So whenever you create an one-to-one association, one-to-one relationship could be created with two things. The first, create a roll-up summary. Then second, create a validation rule. Roll-up summary and validation both are being created onto parent object. Who is my parent? Who is my parent? The parent is hiring manager. So I'll go with hiring manager once again. I'll go with hiring manager. Let me refresh this interface. And new fields. What I wanted to create, roll-up summary. And now, as you can see, this has been enabled. Right? This has been enabled. All right. So let me select roll-up summary, click the next, right? So I'm using a count of position. So or maybe position count. Let me go with this position count. This is the name what I'm creating a new field of the type roll-up, right? So position count, and let me select the next. I would be using position object count function, and then next. I'm making it visible for all of the profile users. Clicking on to the next. So if you wanted this to be land on the layout, select layout, otherwise not. It's up to you. What do you want? It's up to you. What do you want? Okay. So I would bring it to the layout, although in real time, we don't do that. Whenever we create one-to-one association, there is no, this field, roll-up summary actually is sort of hidden field. We don't bring it to the layout. I mean, that's not necessary. I'll show you, because आपकी केस में थोड़ा सा मुझे दिखाना पड़ेगा. उसके बाद में फिर I could hide it. तो अभी तो मैं इसको लेआउट पे ला रहा हूँ, लेकिन बाद में मैं इसको हटा दूंगा. Now what does it mean? See, if I go with all over here, these are the hiring managers. Let me edit certain columns, and the field what just I have created, position count, let me add it. I'll bring it over here. Now save it. See, so this is that field, and what it indicates, this hiring manager is having one position associated to it. Sumit Kumar is handling 2 position, Akshay, Ujjwal, and right. These are some of the hiring manager, they don't have any positions, right? And these, I mean, what does it indicate? What does this field at all indicates to you? This indicates that these hiring manager right now is holding this much of position. All right. So that was my roll-up summary, and this is step number 1. Now in step number 2, I'll have to create a validation rule. In step number 1, create a roll-up field on the parent object, that is hiring manager, with an aggregate function as count. There are 4 different types of functions. There are 4 aggregate functions, what you can select in a roll-up summary: count, minimum, maximum, and sum. Particularly for your one-to-one association, the function should be what? Count. Now second, create a validation rule. Create a validation rule that would again be created onto parent object, your hiring manager object. Who is your parent? The hiring manager is my parent. Let me copy this. Hiring manager. To prevent the roll-up field not to be exceeded than 1. What is that? What is that? Let me show you. So I'll go with hiring manager. Once again, this is my hiring manager, and I'll create a validation rule over here. There are 2 ways to do that. As you can see, new. This is one way. Another way to do this is like, you can just expand the force.com quick access menu. You can go with new, view fields. From view fields or view object, you can create the one which I have showed you right now. When you create view or view field or view object, you would end up over here. There's a section called validation. You can click new. That is one way. The another way is like, inside the force.com itself, there is a direct link, view validation rule. You can click on new. So these are the 2 options where you can see. I'll go with this one. Now, rule name, I would give this as maybe restrict position count, something like that. In the description, I would rather write a more elaborated way. This will ensure that the HR manager should be associated to only one position at a time. All right, this field would ensure, this field will ensure that the hiring manager should be associated with one position at a time. All right, and somebody tried to associate one more position, it's going to give the error. So I have to design a formula. If you remember, like we make a field as a required field. So that time also we use a function called is blank, right? Now similarly, I have to design a formula. So what I did is like, let me once again explain you. So inside the hiring manager, we have created a field called position count. That is a roll-up summary. Just now we created, right? Just now we have created. We created a roll-up summary field called as position count. What this field is indicating to me, this field is indicating that what is the count of position that is being allotted to a particular hiring manager. And I am now creating a validation rule where what I'm doing is like, I would be checking for that field, the field of hiring manager called position count. Let me insert. See, yesterday itself, I have explained inside the formula, what we design is something called as an error condition, So I am checking based on this formula. If the position count is greater than 1, and it is not going to be applied onto the old data, validation rules are always applied from when you create it from that day onwards. Whatever happens in the past is an history. whenever you create a validation rule, that would not be applied on existing data. There's only few functionalities like auto number. If you create an auto number, it would ask you कि वो जो पुराना डेटा है क्या मैं उसको भी शामिल कर लूं इस काउंट में. अगर आप वो चेकबॉक्स क्लिक करोगे तो हाँ ऐसा होता है. एंड यू डोंट सिलेक्ट इट, तो यहां से नया जितना भी डेटा क्रिएट होगा उसको ऑटो नंबर मिलता है. तो ऑटो नंबर फील्ड हैड दैट फंक्शनैलिटी कि अगर आप जब ऑटो नंबर फील्ड क्रिएट करते हो तो इट वुड आस्क यू कि भाई साहब वो जो पुराना डेटा है क्या मैं उसको काउंट कर लूं. एंड इफ यू क्लिक दैट चेकबॉक्स इट वुड काउंट दैट एज वेल. बट वैलिडेशन रूल्स, फॉर्मूला फील्ड्स, roll up summaries, from this onward, you created that. By today, from this day onward, whatever the data would be inserted are going to be validated. So validation rules, formula fields, ये सब चीजें जो है ना from onwards में लगती हैं, back में नहीं जाती हैं. तो अभी कैसा है कि कुछ ऐसे भी रिकॉर्ड्स हैं जिसमें काउंट की वैल्यू 1 से ज्यादा है. लाइक इफ यू सी सुमित कुमार के लिए काउंट की वैल्यू 2 है, उज्जवल के लिए 2 है. So when I finalize this, are it's going to give the error? No. हाँ, उसके ऊपर अगर आप अपडेशन करोगे तो एरर मिलेगा. You would understand, don't worry. What is my formula? My formula, if the value of position count, if it is greater than 1, if it's equals to 1, if it equals to 0, no problem. If it is greater than 1, then I'll have to fire an error. What is that error? This HR manager is already associated, CIATD, associated with the position. बाकी आप समझदार हो. ये जो हायरिंग मैनेजर जिसको आप सिलेक्ट कर रहे हैं अभी, that already is associated with the position, and so you cannot apply another position to him. You have to select somebody else. बाकी आप समझदार हो. And I wanted this to be get display onto hiring manager name. Let me now save this. This is my formula. हाँ, एक चीज मैं बार बार भूल जा रहा हूँ, शायद मैं कल भी भूल गया. Whenever you design something a formula, you'll have to check syntax. कर लिया करो. No errors found, right? This is something good. मैं कल भी शायद ये बताना भूल गया आप लोगों को. तो whenever you design a formula, go with check syntax. And after that, once you see that everything seems to be fine, seems to be okay, then save this. All right. So this now I created a validation rule. It requires two things. You create one-to-one association. It requires two things. Roll-up summary that already have been created. Validation rule, that is also. What does this validation rule? This validation rule would prevent the roll-up summary field and not to be exceeded more than 1. So that is what the validation rule does in that case. So I designed that. Now let me show you this. See, Nilesh is not having any position. Let me go to position object. I create a new position. I would create a new position called Oracle developer. Number of vacancies are 10. HR email ID is something like this one. All right. Position status is in progress. Location is Kochi. Minimum budget 50 lakh, maximum 10 lakh. Today is that open date. Close date, I would be selecting any date of maybe December 31st of this month. Let me copy the same thing into skills required and to as well as position description, everything. All right. Now see, if I would select Nilesh, because I know Nilesh right now is not holding any position, right? So what is the position count? 0. What is the position count? 0. Now if I try to save it, oh, you must enter the budget. How come I already have entered here? Anyways, save it. Saved. All right, no problem. It won't give any problem. You go and refresh this interface. Nilesh के नाम पर एक position भी allot हो गई. Let me now clone this and let me try to give some another position to him. ठीक है? For example, maybe a sales representative. All right. And now if I try to give this to Nilesh, see from this onward, इसके पहले ऐसा नहीं हुआ करता था, लेकिन अब जबकि आपने एक पूरा 1-to-1 एसोसिएशन का मॉड्यूल बना दिया है बैकएंड में, जहां पर एक रोल अप समरी है और वो रोल अप समरी ये पता लगा रहा है कि पर्टिकुलरली किसी हायरिंग मैनेजर के साथ में पोजीशन जो दी गई है उसका काउंट क्या है, और फिर एक वैलिडेशन रूल है जो ये चेक करता है कि अगर वो पर्टिकुलर पोजीशन इफ इट गोज ग्रेटर देन 1 तो इट वुड स्टॉप यू It would stop you for saving that record. ठीक है, तो अभी जैसे कि हमने जब नीलेश को एक पोजीशन अप्लाई किया, दैट वाज द टाइम व्हेन काउंट वाज 0. तो जब काउंट 0 था तो वैलिडेशन रूल ने चेक किया क्या काउंट की वैल्यू ग्रेटर देन 1 है, इट फॉल्स. व्हेन इट इज फॉल्ट इट वोंट स्टॉप यू, और इसी वजह से आप एक पोजीशन को सेव कर पाए. अभी मैं फिर से अटेम्प्ट कर रहा हूं सेम थिंग. नाउ बिकॉज नीलेश राइट नाउ इज होल्डिंग 1, right now is holding 1. As soon as I'll save this, as soon as I will save this, 1 plus 1 कितना होता है 2. ठीक है, if I save this record, if Nilesh already is holding 1 position and if you save this record, तो ideally उसका count कितना हो जाता है 2. Ideally उसका count कितना होता है 2 internally. Before saving the record, this is value is being calculated. तो पता चलता है कि ये जो roll up का value है right now 1 है, 1 plus 1 2 हो जाता है. As soon as it becomes greater than 1, your process would going to be get terminated with this error. Let me now show you this. So if you save it, this HR manager is already associated with the position. Kitne bhi number of times you try to save it, you would not be able to save it because the hiring manager already is associated with another position. If you do with somebody else, jaise ki Swati Kumari, if you do it with somebody else, jaise ki Swati Kumari, you can see Swati Kumari is doesn't having any record. So if you do with like Swati Kumari, and now if I try to save it, it won't give me any error. Why? Because count 0 plus 1 would give 1. Understood? That is what a one-to-one association. Now I could say that every hiring manager is having an association, one-to-one association with position. You can select only one position. You can select only one position for a particular hiring manager. You cannot give him another position. But that would not apply to your old records. That would not apply to your old records. Understand? Validation rules would always work from this onwards. From this onward. You don't have the facility that it would also applies on the old record. No, it would always be applied from new insertions. Whenever you try to insert something new from that onward, validation rule would be applied. And this completes your relationships. This completes your relationship. Take this in assignment, go with this. By tomorrow, by the next session, I would start with the next thing, and that is email templates. And we would see what is the purpose of learning this. Let me give you this command. You can now unmute yourself. Yes. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? All right then. Thank you so much for joining. Have a nice day.